Hello and welcome back, students, to the next lesson in our AS Human Geography course, and today we'll be looking at factors of fertility rates. Okay, so SEEP factors, we've looked at this in our previous video looking at the factors of population change, and again, SEEP factors are basically the factors that will impact an event that is occurring. So the S in the acronym stands for social, the E for economic, the following E for environmental, and the P for political. Okay, beginning on looking at social factors. As we looked at in population change, education is a big factor on how the fertility rate is going to be limited, seeing as people are going to be more educated on how to control families, or family planning, how to use contraception, whether it's better to have more or less kids. People will come to realize over time that it's better to have a smaller family, so as a result the birth rate will decrease and the fertility rate subsequently will then decrease as well. Okay, religion. Also, as we looked at in the other video, religions are going to encourage families to bear more children, such as Islam or Catholicism. So as a result, people are going to have bigger families and fertility rates will increase, such as Catholics in Mexico. And the infant mortality rate is also a factor which will impact the fertility rate, because the higher the infant mortality rate, the more babies a family will attempt to have in order for them to have a greater chance of survival. So for example, in developing countries in Africa such as Ethiopia, the infant mortality rate is very high because of the lack of sanitation, healthcare, etc. But we're going to look at the factors on the infant mortality rate in the next lesson. So the infants are dying more often, but the family wants a set number of children to perhaps help them in the family trade or on the farm, etc. So what they'll do is that they will have more children in order to have a greater chance of survival. So fertility rates will be very high as the women are going to have more kids over their lifetime. Okay, economic factors. The main economic factor that's going to impact fertility rates is the usage of the child and the family's incomes. So in some developing countries, children are seen as producers as opposed to consumers. So families are going to want to have the children so that they can grow up and at an early age begin working on the plantation, or on the farm, or whatever the family business is. So that way they can make more money by having the child as extra labour, which they don't really have to pay. However, the people's incomes could then also impact the fertility rate, as people will come to realise that they can't afford to have another child. So as a result, the fertility rates are going to stay down, as they're not going to bother having, to give birth to that child in the first place, to then have to raise them up with a shortage of cash. Okay, political factors. Now the main political factor, which is really the only one that you're going to have to know if you can think about this, great, but it's population policies, and these are the birth rates that are going to be limited due to the government setting in rules in order for the population to have a certain number of kids. So for example, China's one child policy is the best example that you could probably give, where they encouraged and forced the population to only have one child per family. So then that way the fertility rate drops really drastically, because families are not having as many kids as they used to, and they're only having one kid per family, so as a result the fertility rate remains very low. Okay, here are some questions for you to attempt. Pause the video, answer them. Once you are done, press play, see your answers, and then move on to the next video. Okay, here are the answers. If you got 3 out of 3, I would advise you to move on, because next lesson we will be looking at the factors of infant mortality rates. If you did not get 3 out of 3, I would go over your notes again, which I hope you've been making, or if not, rewind the video, see where you've gone wrong, and then move on whenever you are ready. And if you'd like to take a break of studying geography and perhaps do something else or study another subject, please feel free to check out my channel. I have a vast range of different subjects there which you may be studying at A-level as well, so check them out as well. Okay, thank you, and I will see you next time.